Sup? Welcome to the Tedeschi Trucks podcast. This is episode number 21, and I am Adam Choit. To follow this show, it's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram, and I'm at Adam Choit on Instagram as well if you want to follow me. And of course, I have no affiliation with the band. This is an unofficial podcast. I'm just a fan. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast, please, and give it a positive review on iTunes if you are enjoying the show. Doing those things is helpful for sure. So, today's guest is Tedeschi Trucks band fan Bob Beatty. Born in Florida, now residing in Tennessee, Bob recalls getting pretty hardcore into blues music at an early age, around 10. Not too long after, he started playing some guitar himself, playing with various bands over the years. Although his music taste is eclectic, the Allman Brothers Band and all music Derek Trucks has had a profound impact on Bob. We cover a lot, from seeing Kid Derek on stage live to giving adult Derek the Al Jackson Jr. t-shirt right off his back after a show. Let's just get into this fun conversation. Here's Bob Beatty. So it's good to see you today, Bob Beatty. Thank you for joining me on the Zoom here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. How are you holding up in Nashville, right?
You know, about as well as everybody else is, right? It's been pretty well. Yeah. It's been
all things considered.
Quite an adventure. Amen. Amen. It has been an adventure for all of us. My last big outing was at the Madison Square Garden the Brothers show. So and fortunately I got to see TTB 5 times before they shut down before that. So I've seen Derek, actually gotten to see Derek 6 times this year. I was planning on 10. Or 10 total Tedeschi Truck shows. So I got I got a fix before it shut down. But, I was supposed to be at Red Rocks, I guess, beginning of this month, late last month. I was planning on going to the Beacon too. So, but it went out with a bang at Madison Square Garden. Definitely did that.
That was, the Brothers show was after TTB's last show, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
I saw them at the Ryman on February 29th. Jerry Douglas sat in for, a lot of the acoustic set, and then he sat in toward the end. And then, 2 weeks later, not even, it was 10 days, 11 days later, I saw him in New York. Right there. Remember the Ryman, they store a lot of like the road cases in this one area, like a hallway between the lobby and the actual, when you walk in the venue. The seating venue. And I remember Derek's road cases had, like something on them that said, road case 13 of 14 MSG or ABB. I forget what, but they were, so when the band packed up, his stuff went to New York. Everybody else's went wherever they keep their stuff, in Jacksonville. Yeah,
I still listen to those, to the Ryman shows and to the last shows TTB did this year. I think because when you go to archive, the archive, it's like at the top. So I'm just like, I'm just going to listen to the most recent thing. Like, why scroll so much all the time? Sometimes I just want, you know what I mean? I'm not always digging for a specific feeling or song or era or whatever. I'm just like, I want to hear music right now. I want to hear TTB right now. So I'm just clicking on the most recent thing, and I know I'm going to get something that's awesome to listen to.
If you go over to re-listen has this
I had
feature.
That app also, yeah.
Okay. It has this feature where it's on this day. So you could, like yesterday, I listened to a show from, I think it was 2011. Because, I go back the entire time with TTB, but I was thinking about this in preparation for talking to you because there's so much now. Like when I was an early Allman Brother, when I first got in the Allman Brothers, there's a very limited amount of Dwayne era stuff that circulated. So you'd get it all, listen to it, and you could kind of say, oh, I like 11771 Syria Mosque, or what is now known as 71070 at SUNY Stony Brook. It used to trade us like 726.
Right, that shows I've listened to.
Yeah, and so but with Derek, like 60, 70 shows a year, all of them are recorded, almost all of them are on re-listen or archive. So there's a ton to listen to from TTB, and they're so good every night. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter what show you pick. I have yet to hear one where it's just a true clunker of a show. I'm sure they would feel a lot differently. I'm not all that easily fooled, but they play at such a high caliber that if something's not clicking, it's hard to tell for me. So I'm with you. There's so much out there, and I love it, but it can be overwhelming.
I'm almost curious to ask the band, Derek or Susan, tell me, what are your 3 worst shows? I want to hear the worst shows where the band was off. Somebody was having a bad day. I don't know, the rhythm, something by your guys' standards. What are the 3 worst shows? And then I listen to those, and I'm like, I'll probably be like, you guys are insane.
Yeah,
I would just start listening to those 3 shows probably all the time because like whatever I'm listening to in the moment, that becomes like, maybe I'm into 11-5 Milwaukee, and that's what I'm listening to for the next month. Like that would be one of those shows.
Yep, that's kind of how I roll. I think I did a real deep dive last year in the whole 2019 tour. I'd seen them they played in Nashville with Gabe before Kofi died, so they had come here in January. They played none of they played like Shame and maybe one other of the new tracks, maybe Signs, that had been released. And then, they go back, and then Kofi dies the day they're supposed to release the record.
Right.
And of course, I hadn't heard the record yet, so I listened to that show just to hear the songs. Then the next night, but the shows that really stood out to me immediately was the 223 and 226. 223, I think, is Warner Theater. And 226 is
the Brooklyn Academy. Was that one of the Brooklyn Academy shows?
It could be Yeah, I was thinking it was New York or anyway. But those 2 shows just stood out. And then I sort of carried through, listened to the Wheels of Soul off and on, including the shows I went to. And then those Japan shows are just incredible because the crowd sits and you can tell they sit and listen. Unlike us in America, like you listen to those New York shows. Man, what a raucous crowd that is,
But the crowd, the Japanese crowd is very into it as well. You can, you hear them on tape. Like those are great shows. Like I do go through my phases where I listen to the theme song, not theme song, but the track that I lifted is from one of the Japan shows, the Bound for Glory. I think either 611 or 616. I forget off the top of my head. Yeah. It's from the Japan shows in 2019.
They were just the crowd is into it. There's no doubt they're into it. They're different. They sound different on on our audio because they are so it's a whole different. I can't wait. One of these days I'm gonna go out there. I will go see them in Japan.
They probably were just recorded better, and there's less.
That could be too. That could be too.
It's more about the people who are around the person recording. Is that what?
Okay, no. I'll tell you this. If you want to hear the difference, the Beacon, I would definitely say listen to a Japan show versus a Beacon Theater show.
No doubt, New Yorkers
I was at Chicago Theater the second weekend this year, the last 2 nights there, and again, you're right. Tapers do impact it, but most of them are taping ambient sound like you are, like we are. And I remember sitting at the Beacon this year, which is the first time I'd been since 2001. And I remember remarking to a friend I was with, I said, the Beacon crowd, New York has all that energy and you feel it anyway. And the crowd, it's not restless. It's not demanding. They're not being New York jerks. It's just there's something going on there and you can feel it in the room. The energy. Of New York,
it's an energy, right? Yeah.
Crammed into that room,
Yeah, and you get a certain energy like that, I'm sure, from New York, Chicago, Philly, Boston type shows, and you might get a different energy from the West Coast or Japan or other places. Not apples and oranges, I guess. Why don't we get into it? Why don't you tell me about your life and when you were real young and what kind of music you're into and family's influence in music? Are you a musician? Were you a musician? I'll kind of give you the floor and we can kind of go in order. We kind of already went so hardcore into it right away, which is great. I could talk about this all day.
You can probably piece this and place it later in the thing. So
there's no rule that it has to be linear and in order.
And I've told you when we talked the other day, I said I like how you do it because you sort of let it flow. So I'm from Florida. I grew up in a town called Stewart, which is about 100 miles north of Miami, on the East Coast. I started playing guitar when I was 12. And I am now 49, so 37 years. I should be exponentially better than I am, which I remember on your very first podcast you mentioned. I think we all think that.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I should be so. I mean, so I played guitar off and on, all through through school, high school. Kept playing, put it aside from time to time. I had kids, and my wife had kids, and kind of stopped playing. And about it was about 8 years ago now. My mother passed away very suddenly. It was it's kind of out of the blue deal. I was 40. I turned 41, and prime midlife crisis time. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what it was, because I started playing the shit out of guitar again, partially because my younger brother wanted me to play at her service, and I was like, okay, I got to do that. Let me say that my younger brother and Derek are exactly 6 months apart in age. So Brian's was 8 years younger than I am, and he was born December 8th of 79 and 78. And I think Derek was born June 8th of 79. It might have been 80, actually. I looked it up because I was trying to figure out.
Derek's born in 79, I think.
79. So I was hoping, when I was younger, I was like, I hope those two get together, because my brother is a phenomenal musician and drummer. At home, my parents were 11 years apart. Dad was kind of the first rock and roll era. Mom was more British Invasion, Beatles. So she had the Beatles records. Dad had Hank Williams and Johnny Cash, and a few blues records. I know he had B.B. King's Live at Cook County Jail, which is weird.
Those are cool influences, though, for sure. Dude, that's great music on both sides.
It was all, but here's the thing. My parents they had good music. They didn't listen to music like I do, or like my kids have grown up with amazing amount of music. I made mix CDs for my wife to play with headphones on her belly when she was pregnant, like that kind of shit.
There you go.
But so I started playing guitar and got into blues. That was my thing. I asked my dad one time to buy me a Muddy Waters record, which he did at Peaches Records down in West Palm, and Muddy Waters at Newport. Still got it. And kind of changed my world. I kind of went. So it's Clapton, back to Muddy. Then I went back to Robert Johnson, and it was too much. When I was 13 years old, 14, like Robert Johnson, some really, really heavy stuff. And I always loved slide guitar, but I kind of liked electric slide. The weird part is about the same time I bought At Fillmore East on cassette tape. And I never got into it. It's funny considering what happens to me kind of 10 years after that, I
have a little bit of a similar track with the Allman Brothers, for sure.
Nobody listened to it around me, and classic rock radio. I wish I need to look this up, but it's a relatively new format, and in the 70s and even through most of the 80s, like radio was still kind of playing. It wasn't so segmented, at least in my area, but they didn't play a lot of Allman Brothers. They played like One Way Out, Statesboro, and Ramblin' Man, and that was about it. Sometimes Jessica.
Yeah, that's I was going to say that. Where you said you grew up near Jacksonville, like in Florida?
No, I grew up in Stewart, which is 100 miles north of Miami. So I think it's probably 300 miles south of Jacksonville, straight down the coast.
Gotcha.
Miami
on the east coast.
Yeah. Miami, it goes sort of Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and West Palm Beach, and then Stewart is kind of the Jupiter, Stewart, Fort Pierce is the next area.
Gotcha.
And then, I mean, here's the thing. Fast forward to college, I had I guess this will go out. Maybe BMG will come and get me, but I used to sign up for the BMG CD club all the time under all kinds of false names and shit. And I got an Allman Brothers Decade of Hits CD, and that's where I think I heard all these songs, kind of for the first time with New Ears. Ain't Wasting Time No More, Blue Sky,
right?
Dreams to this day still blows my mind. The original studio version, in particular, and then Derek's name. So if you get to sort of Derek and the music I listened to, so I was a blues freak, like that was my thing. And Derek's
I'm not to cut you off, but why you said you were talking about all this thought going into what albums you were purchasing when you were 12, 13 years old. So you've been hardcore into music since like what age? Since like you were 5 or 6?
No, I mean, probably around 10. I'd say probably around 10, and then it just kept getting worse. I had an older cousin who was like my older brother. He's who turned me on to what we would now call alternative music, but he loved all this stuff too. I always tended a little more toward rock and blues stuff. But no, quick note on this one, Adam, but I've done a zillion personality assessments over the years, but I did one called the Berkman a few years back. And when the guy was telling me about it, it was a real long thing about interest in what you do. And he said, where you score on music. And that's like thinking about, talking about, reading, writing, playing music, listening to everything that surrounds it. He said, you score so high that it's actually not a desire, it's a need for you.
I believe that. I don't know, something about I'm looking at the backdrop in your place, and I see music photos and a guitar and looks like records, and you got a tie-dye style shirt on, and you got
this was
the Allman Brothers shirt. I've heard of them. Yeah, but talking about like the Allman Brothers and Robert Johnson stuff, I think for some music, I think you just gotta go through more in life.
Yes,
life needs to beat the shit out of you more before you can appreciate certain music, maybe. And that could come at different parts, and that's not everything, Sometimes you just like music because you like music, but like, I don't know, to appreciate certain kinds of music, like I don't know, just I've heard people talk about Greg Allman, to sing like he sings, what kind of crazy life and suffering even like does a person have to go through? I don't know.
Well, you use Greg's a great example. He wrote Dreams when he was like 20, 21 years old.
Yeah, that's insane.
Absolutely, you dead on.
Steven Tyler wrote Dream On when he was 17. Didn't Steve Winwood write Give Me Some Lovin' when he was 17?
Rich Robinson writes She Talks to Angels when he's around that age.
I was not.
No.
We're not prodigies. We like guitar. We like playing.
Yeah.
We may even be getting better and slowly over the years, but we lack talent. At least we're lacking talent on that kind of level.
Look, my talent is
not that they don't work hard. All these guys.
Yes, I totally agree. But there's a and Derek in particular, there's a preternatural talent there that is pretty remarkable. And it's true about like a lot of these guys. And then there's that. I actually love reading and writing history as much as I do, with music. Probably not as much, but I was never all that great a guitar player, and it didn't live and die to play the guitar when I was younger, or I'd be a hell of a lot better. I think like with Greg, particularly with Derek, it is so obvious the talent is so high, but I'll tell you this, I am convinced had Derek Trucks chosen to play baseball, he'd have been a pro baseball player. I've heard he's a phenomenal athlete. I've never seen him, but people like him are talented in different ways. And he went this route because this was his calling, the music.
Yeah. Calling. He's shown an ability to dedicate himself to his craft to an insane degree. So yeah. If he had chose to do something else that he had even a modicum, if that's the right word, of level of talent, he probably would have been successful at that, whatever, that baseball or otherwise.
Yeah. I think so. When I first saw him, which would have been, in 92 or 93, he was, and I think there was still some talk that he was still playing Little League. I think, at least in some ways. So there was
like 11. It was like, yeah, he was like what was he, like
12 or
years
13
old? Yeah, born in 79. Math. yeah.
I'm a historian, so math ain't good for me, for sure.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Yeah, you do good.
Thumbs up.
But Robert Johnson was a little, when you read about Clapton was my first guy, which is kind of weird, but it's interesting considering, what role Clapton played both for Duane Allman with Layla and with Derek touring with Clapton for that year. Clapton talked about all of the greats. And I just, you start going deeper into these guys' influences just to learn what made them tick.
Do you remember what drew you into Clapton initially? Was it an album or a song, or just kind of just some radio hits or something? Or was it that drew you in, the guitar playing?
What a great question. It was guitar playing. My guitar teacher loved him too. And he had bought this. I'm sure it's sitting back there on the shelf. He had bought this, bought me this kind of Italian, it wasn't a bootleg, but it was a compilation, and it had stuff with, I think Clapton was playing a Champion Jack Dupree, the piano player from New Orleans. And I know it had some John Mayall on it, and that, the Blues Breakers record I owned on tape, I think on cassette tape. Cream, I loved. Never liked the Yardbirds. Really never much cared for the Yardbirds. But Cream, Blind Faith, I always loved the songs on that record.
Yeah.
And so those were the first the Blues Breakers record Clapton played on was he did I think Ramblin' on My Mind, he did the vocal on, and that was a Robert Johnson song. And I had an album called Muddy and the Wolf, which was a compilation. I think both of them were playing with the British blues guys. There was one side was Muddy Waters, one was Howlin' Wolf. And on the Howlin' Wolf side, Wolf is showing Clapton how to play slide on Little Red Rooster. There's like this little interlude. And it always struck me because here you have the actual guy showing the protege, and you can hear it.
I gotta listen to this. This sounds awesome.
If I can find it, I'll send you the link.
Was it like a bootleg album or something?
No. It's a Chess Records album called Muddy. I don't know when it was originally released. I bought it in the '80s, and it would have been reproduced, and Chess had already folded and this or that. But no, it was the real deal. And
cool.
There's a great version on that of Muddy Waters doing Long Distance Call live. So that ends like side one or something like that. And then this other has this Clapton, Howlin' Wolf showing Clapton how to slide. And I always wanted to play slide guitar. It's not easy.
Do you, or did you, or?
I do now. Yeah. I can fake it and make people think it sounds really, really, really good.
Yeah. I find myself, sometimes occasionally impressing people that I feel like don't know anything. But then when you're in the presence of another guitar player, it's a whole nother thing.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. Not in a bad way. I mean, because they always say it's good to be around play with people who are better than you is the thing for sure. Were you in bands? I want to hear more, maybe a little more about your playing. I was just curious, were you in bands? And besides slide guitar, what were the challenges like that, and the struggles that you had playing? Did you not play as fast as you wanted? Were you not able to, like right hand stuff, left hand stuff? Like what was it? Theory that struggle with?
I had a really great teacher, a guy named Tim Brown, in Orlando, and Tim had just come out of Guitar Institute of Technology, or GIT, I think it's called. And Jimmy Herring went there, I think around the same time that Tim had been there. My current guitar teacher actually went there. And okay, so the first thing was I was 6th or 7th grade. My parents bought me my mother, God rest her soul, was a really big cheapskate. She bought me the literal cheapest guitar, and it was like a 3/4 scale guitar. And this amp it's the only amp in my life I've ever blown. I blew this little piece of shit solid state amp. Tim, my guitar teacher, the only reason I wanted to play guitar is because the cool kids were playing guitar. I had tried to play piano earlier and didn't enjoy it. I wanted to play drums, and my parents I don't think they wanted the drums in the house at the time. My brother ended up playing drums. And so the challenge, like you said, that's when I picked it up. And Tim had a system where he was trying to get me to learn theory coming out of the chute. And when you're 12 and 13 and your friends say, "Oh, play me something," you're like, "Well, I can play you the C major scale in the 3rd position," right? And he also had this thing that was kind of cool. He had worked up these little okay, here's the Bo Diddley. So the Bo Diddley beat, the chord change, and a little lead that goes with it. He had a Chuck Berry one that I learned, Scotty Moore. And that's how I kind of learned about all these other guitar players. Because to that point I was just, I wanted to play songs, and he was trying to teach me to be a guitar player. And it took me 10 years to catch on to that, like what he was trying to do.
No doubt.
I formed a band when I was 15 or 16, but it was a punk rock band called the Degenerates.
That wasn't taken, that name?
I mean, I don't know. We were just, 16-year-old kids in the Treasure Coast, it's funny you say that. I should go look
You were the
that up,
degenerates
actually.
for your town.
Yeah, we were. And then so we played and wrote songs and did our thing. But I'll tell you, I have been in a million garage bands. I had jammed for hours on end with friends, had really some transcendent experiences playing music, but really I've only played in front of people probably less than half a dozen times in my life to date. And it's just been, like you said, the struggles have been, bottom line, my biggest struggle as a guitar player is my guitar hero is not Kurt Cobain. It's Duane Allman and Dickie Betts and Derek Trucks and Warren Haynes and these guys who are just incredible. I can play every bit as good as Kurt Cobain could. I can't write songs or sing like him, but I can play guitar like he could. But I can't, my standard is so high, I'd never feel like I can reach it,
Yeah. How come none of us came up with the Come As You Are riff?
I mean,
if it's so easy and so simple and anyone could do it, how come no one came up with that riff before Kurt Cobain did?
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you this. In fact, I'm actually gonna speak as put my historian's hat on tomorrow and talk about Nirvana actually tomorrow. But I love that music. I love the relative, if you will, simplicity. It's not complex music. It's difficult music because you've got to be really good at piecing it together. But I'll tell you this, Adam, like when I played, what I want to do is honestly what, the Allman Brothers do or what, Tedeschi Trucks does, sort of a lot of people making a cool melding of sounds with a lot of people doing a lot of cool stuff, and they're having conversations constantly. And I said is music that talks, where musicians are talking to each other or listening and speaking and going, just strikes every chord, every note for me.
That's a good way to put it, and I think that's also part of why I'm drawn to Tedeschi Trucks and to the Allman Brothers, and that's not something you get from top 40 highly produced music, overproduced music. Yeah. You don't hear the instruments communicating with each other, and you get that on Tedeschi Trucks studio albums as much as you do, or at least you get that as well on their studio recordings.
I think the as well part, there's Derek said, I remember coming out, I think when Songlines came out, he talked about that a little bit, that prior to that, when he went to the studio, he was trying to kind of recreate that studio, that live magic in the studio. And I think it was Songlines. I think it was when he said, we decided, the studio was going to be another, I don't think he used the term instrument, but we were going to do something different in the studio. And that's, a change, but you still hear it. It's the spontaneity isn't there. With a good set of headphones, if you listen to those nugs.net feeds that that they'll do, like the sound is so good. And just side note, I don't hear in my right ear. My right ear, I was born deaf in my right ear. So I have one ear that I hear with. And
wow.
I've been told, and in fact, but I know I have a good ear. I didn't know it was that much different than anybody else's, but I like to listen like to just Derek's rhythm on those like Nugs feeds and things, because he is such a phenomenal rhythm player.
I've talked about that. Yeah.
You did? Okay.
How amazing it is. I don't even know if on this podcast, but I've had that thought, like seeing him live and in certain, at the BB King tribute show, for some reason I was just sitting at his amp was like kind of like facing me.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
You could hear when other people are soloing, his rhythm was louder. And his sound always cuts through regardless of the volume anyway.
Yeah.
But his volume for me, at least where I was louder than, some of the people who were soloing at the time. And I really heard, him, how talented he is playing rhythm as well.
He plays an open E, which is a completely different, like I'll tune my guitars to open E every once in a while just to try. And I can play slide relatively well in open E. I mean, it's if you get the patterns down, it can be kind of simple. It's the fretted guitar work that he does. And then when he's playing rhythm, like he's doing stuff because all his notes are in a different spot than when you and I play a chord.
Right. Yeah.
And I love it. And I'll sit and of course, again, this year, this doesn't work. So I'm just pressing this ear in with a good set of headphones to try to hear it so crisply.
Yeah.
It is so good. It's so good.
Are people to your right always talking about you unknowingly? They're always making fun of you. People to your right talking shit because they know.
So they might be. I know that it was a joke. My wife has played on me more than once. She'll be in a store and she'll call out my name, and everything comes there. Everything goes in one side. So like if somebody over here starts talking and I know they're there, I think they're in the corner over here because that's where it comes from. So
yeah, that's wild.
It's
that's
like,
wild. If someone's, because you're gonna hear it in your left ear, so every time someone to your right says something, you're gonna hear it if they're within an earshot. But it's gonna always feel like they're to your left.
That's just the way it rolls. So I mean,
that's wild.
It's different. It's it's just me. But I have to. It's interesting. I learned this year to ask for accommodations actually at the Ryman, because I was like, if I'm stage left, my deaf ear is to all of the speakers, and I have to sort of use my good ear to catch the sound coming this way. So I like to sit like stage right, kind of maybe at kind of almost in line with Derek, maybe a 10, 15 degree angle to Derek. And the Ryman actually accommodated me. It was really nice. I was like, thank you guys. Cause I'm not trying to get better seats. I just want a place where I can hear. And,
that's what you tell them.
I did. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well,
do what you got to do.
I'm sure they catch it, but it was the first time I decided to ask for it. Cause I was like, I'm paying a lot of money for these seats and I want to be able to hear well if they have an accommodation. If they don't, big whoop. The Beacon.
No, it sounds reasonable to me for sure.
Yeah, Madison Square Garden wouldn't accommodate me.
I don't doubt that. I hear that Dolan fellow is not the most gregarious man to his patrons. Now, why don't you tell me more about like sort of your musical journey from, I guess, when you were in your 20s? You said you were playing guitar, and up until discovering TTB. Were you continuing to? Well, you said you kind of stopped playing a little bit when you had kids. But what were you listening to? Was it? I mean, you said you got into alternative a little bit, and it seemed like blues. Was there any other music, or where did we go? Any other artists that became a big part of what you were into? Throughout your life.
I came of age in the early part of the grunge and the Lollapalooza scene. So those were constantly in rotation in our college dorms. I tended to gravitate a little bit toward the more sort of rock vein, and then when the sort of hippie, what they call jam band now. At that point, it didn't have that name, but Blues Traveler and Widespread Panic, and everybody forgets Dave Matthews Band was a massive jam band before they went huge. I saw them open the Horde Festival one year. I saw them at tiny little clubs. Like they were a jam band. So I started kind of listening to that music. The Allman Brothers, it came on, and that's everything made sense. It put it all together for me. Like the blues was there, the country, which I liked because of Dad, the songs were there, the rock, jazz, which I didn't know a lot of, and I didn't quite make the connection, but jazz is all there. The freaking rhythm, the punk rock attitude. There's no punk rock there, but the punk rock attitude. So the band that I was in college was kind of like it was three dudes, playing in a garage band, and we kind of played, I don't know, one song that probably sounded a little bit like a Velvet Underground ish thing. I mean, I'm not comparing ourselves to that, but that that kind of crap.
Sure.
And, some of those songs I still 25, 30 years later still play today. I've kind of reworked in different ways. But I kind of made the decision at 22, 23 years old that playing music for a living was not in my future. I wasn't good enough. I didn't have enough good talent around me, and nor did I really want to go out there and hoof it. So I got really hardcore in the Allman Brothers 92, 93, and played guitar through then. That's when I tried to learn how to play lead a little bit better. In punk rock bands, you just play really fast, and I couldn't play fast, and whenever I'd solo, the whole band would stop because they didn't know you kept going. I was the rhythm and everything else. By the time I got to this other band with my friends, it was, I was learning how to play. And then about 90, let's see, 90, 97, 98, started playing again, like as much as I could, and working out little things, and played. The last band I played in was actually 2000. We're going to record hopefully in February some of our songs for my 50th birthday. I'm going to bring
That's
us back
fun.
and do it. We did that. And, that's when I really went hardcore on this, this Allman Brother tip, and everything kind of related to that. I mean, I did some following of not following a Widespread Panic, saw Widespread Panic a bunch when they were in Florida, Blues Traveler for a bit till they bored me. And I loved, still do to this day, Smashing Pumpkins, from Gish to Siamese Dream, and a little bit of Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. That stuff I just loved. I have a very eclectic musical taste. There's very
Sure.
little I cannot listen to. Like Jimmy Buffett, cannot listen to him. But for the most part, and Steely Dan, I can't stand Steely Dan either. But for the most part, like if it's got a groove and it's fun to listen to, I like to listen to it.
Right. No, I'm similar. I would say for sure. Tell me more about the Allman Brothers like journey then. Like once you started to get hardcore into them in 92, 93, were you just listening to every album, everything you can get your hands on, reading about them, going to see the
Nailed it.
I guess the pre-Derek lineup? Like what?
Yep.
Where were you at?
This, you growing up, right? Everybody knows the Allman Brothers so for most of my growing up, they weren't together. They'd broken up in 81, 82. And so Dickie and Greg were doing their own thing, but they weren't on my radar. I remember in 89, they got back together and they did the Dreams tour. And the reason I remember it is because I remember Guitar Player magazine running a pretty long feature on it. So that was always interesting. Like, this and that and this and that. I got that Decade of Hits CD, and it was as if God had said, I am giving you this gift, and it's going to formulate the basis of what you listen to the rest of your life, because it put, I'm not kidding. It was like everything came together for me. And it was a perfect time in my life. I was just about to graduate college. I had, I met my wife shortly after all of this. Okay, so I'm not even going to go long story short. That it was November of 93. The Allman Brothers played a run in Florida, and they played Gainesville. They played Brevard County. I think it was Vieira, and then they played West Palm Beach. At the same time, the Smashing Pumpkins were on their first tour were Siamese Dream, and they were playing clubs also. So I ended up going and seeing just one of the Brothers shows, and I saw two of the Pumpkins shows. Kind of wish I'd have flipped it now. But what I didn't know at the time was Dickie Betts had just come back from a hiatus in 93. He had left the band for a while it was either rehab or personal issues, whatever. So they came back, and it was, I'll tell you this. I went expecting a nostalgia show. So this was the Warren and Woody era. So they'd been together 4 years, I guess, since the reunion. And it was one of the most phenomenal concerts I ever saw in my life, in a shitty venue at the Palm Beach Fairgrounds. One of those big cavernous places where they usually show the horses and shit, and the cows. I liked it so much, I went and bought the live record from the Chuck Leavell and Lamar Williams era, the Wipe the Windows, Check the Oil, Dollar Gas. I literally got back to Orlando, drove to the store, and bought that CD that I'd been looking at for months. And then bought Lidlow Garage and because that was Live Dwayne and bootleg. I remember actually
Anything
prior to
you
that,
get your hands on
anything I could
related to the Allman Brothers.
Anything related, and it started with the original Allman Brothers, because of course that's the Holy Grail. I remember reading an article Alan Paul wrote with Kirk West in Guitar World magazine, and Kirk West was talking about a 33-minute Mountain Jam, and I remember vividly sitting in my apartment going, any band that can hold my attention for 33 minutes is I gotta check out. And they did. Like, you listen to it, and I could give or take the drums, but at the time, you're young and stupid. I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, so, it's so funny you say that, because before I got hardcore into the Allman Brothers, even when I just started listening to them, I wasn't listening to Mountain Jam. That's not what the first thing that I'm not going to commit to that. But now when I listen to Mountain Jam, I listen to every goddamn version from every era, listening closely. Maybe not even closely, but that's part of what I like about it, is that it's not that you put it on in the background. It's that it's I don't have to be a DJ. I can just
Yeah.
let things be and just like absorb I'm committing and I'm just, and letting go. It's funny that you also said that this is the music I'm going to listen to for the rest of my life. And I've thought about that as I've listened to like You Don't Love Me or One Way Out or Trouble No More. Am I really going to be like 85, 90 years old still listening to those songs? Am I going to be still like having that kind of like adrenaline, like listening to those songs? Or am I just going to be like listening to Mozart somewhere like, or I don't know, nothing against Mozart, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know, do 85, 90-year-olds listen to that type of to hard rock or anything like that or what?
You know what? I guess it remains to be seen. I guess I'll be figuring that out over the next 30 years or so, right?
Right.
I'll tell you this. When you start unpeeling this onion, and again, Allman Brothers are influenced by Muddy Waters and by Robert Johnson and by Hank Williams and Bill Monroe, and Bob Wills and all of these things that I liked, the Beatles. I mean, they all have that. So it was, and then when you take like Derek and you take Warren and the offshoots that all of these guys have done, Sea Level back in the 70s, I call it, I mean, as a historian, I can't call it authenticity because you can't really prove that, but there's an authentic quality to the way that they do stuff. And the more I check in with Derek and hear what he does, I mean, he's never traded on I've never felt he traded on the legacy. He could have been, the next great thing and just been like Dwayne Allman Jr. and I bet he could have made gobs of money. He never did that. I think because he really respects the legacy from which he comes from.
Yeah,
all of
no doubt.
those bands. So I expect I'll be listening to it. I expect I'm going to grow old listening to Derek and Susan, what Derek and Susan are going to do.
Right. Even if it's not the entire catalog of every song that we'll be into, but I think certainly there's room for Little Martha for the rest of our lives. We will
Amen.
be playing that song.
Amen.
I'll be sitting somewhere on a porch getting old, hope, whatever, like Little Martha will be playing and other tracks like that might be more appropriate for like an old geezer. I don't know.
Whip and post, man.
Right. What about your journey towards Tedeschi Trucks and discovering them? I mean, it seemed like you said you were pretty much there from day one in 2010, and you'd seen Derek how many times and the band how many times?
I'm guessing I'm probably up there close to 100 at this point. It might be more. I have got to sit down and write it out.
That's TTB or Derek Trucks?
No,
band?
that's Derek.
Anything.
Allman
Derek.
Brothers, TTB, Derek Trucks Band.
Anything Derek, gotcha.
We had Derek played the blues club, the blues bar circuit in Florida when he was a kid. And again, his name had come out as this hotshot guitar player, prodigy, blah, blah, blah. Played slide guitar like a genius. So you're like, okay. So
you sent me a couple of articles.
I did. Yeah. I sent you. Right.
What did it say? Puppy, Sky Puppy.
Yes.
I mean,
right. That's the kind of stuff that they tried to do with him. And he just didn't buy it. Like man, I'll give you my story. This is the story I say all the time. So it was the Junkyard in Castleberry, Florida, which is this suburb of Orlando. I went to UCF in Orlando, and he was the marquee guy. And I'm going to set it up for you. Little tiny stage, blues bar. You know what I'm talking about. And here was this little blonde-haired kid with a Atlanta Braves cap on. I don't think his hair was any longer than mine was. With this SG that looked huge because he was a small kid at first. And I vividly remember because we were sitting at the tables, and they did One Way Out in Statesboro, and they probably did Layla. And, he had that set. He was playing with a bunch of dudes who are now my age, or the age I am now, in their later
your current
40s,
age, yeah.
Really good players, but nobody was there to see them. So he would stand there. I mean, the preternatural calm of this kid, Adam, I mean, it still baffles me to this day because, when you're a little boy and you're hanging out with grown men doing, and you're good at what the grown men are doing, whether it's chopping wood or playing guitar or playing sports, right? You know the pressure on it's a thing, right? I've got to announce it. I got to be there. This little kid who was hands down, Adam, 1,000 times better than anybody else in that room. He would wait his turn. Remember, it was his band. He would wait his turn. I remember he'd look and he'd rip these solos, and you'd be like, holy shit. Like, and he was, 12, 13, it was, again, it's the equivalent of Greg writing Dreams or, whatever. Like, he just was so Serena or Venus Williams. He was on such another level. And I remember being wowed by that. And I was, I'd seen a lot less concerts than I've seen today and didn't realize how truly rare that was. So I saw Derek at least one more time, if not two. One time he opened, I was in Denver, living in Denver, and he opened for Todd Schneider about a year or two later. And then the next time I saw him was May of 97. This is the first time I saw Derek Trucks Band. And he opened for Frog Wings, the very first Frog Wings tour. And he also played at another club in actual Orlando proper. And I remember I turned to my best friend, Troy, who plays my musical soulmate, who plays bass in my band and this running 20-year band we've had. And I said to Troy, I said, Jesus Christ, the kid got himself a band. And, I guess by 97, he was 16 or 17 years old, and they were playing, DTB stuff. They didn't have a great singer. Bill McKay was still singing with them. And so that was 97. And I just saw them as much as I could between then and saw him a bunch in 97, 98, 99. Anytime he came through in early 2000 when Kofi joined the band, I think it was early 2000, might have been early 01. But I went to like 4 consecutive shows. We did Orlando, Tampa, or it was like St. Pete, Fort Lauderdale, and then the last night was West Palm. Butch Trucks came in and played on. It wasn't Statesboro, but it was the same kind of groove. Susan was with them. They had just met, so it must have been 2000. And yeah. I remember the feeling of the Allman family is this woman, for real? And she's here. She's 10 years older. Not that she was a problem, but it was like, we were all kind of protective of Derek, and this or that. And she got up there. She'd sing "Little by Little" by Junior Wells, which was on her record. And so just saw them as much as possible over the years, opening for the Allman Brothers, little club sets all throughout Florida. Sometimes in the Southeast, you'd catch them, in the between Beacon, off nights at the Beacon or after parties and stuff.
I'm guessing it sounds like you met Derek and maybe even had like, I don't know about a friendship, but like interactions or something, or because you said we were protective of, meaning just like the blues lovers and the people who authentically love blues in the area.
Yeah, I early on got involved in a really robust Allman Brother online community. It was a NetSpace listserv from Brown University. I was just talking to a friend about this today and met just a ton of people. So that's who I mean by we. Yeah, I've met Derek a couple times. I think the world of him, and actually gave him a T-shirt that I was wearing in Chicago. He goes, "Oh, nice Al Jackson Jr. shirt." And I'm like, Derek, I said, I've probably worn this shirt 3 times to concerts and not a single person has ever said a word. I said, do you want the shirt? Like, cause I was like, I had another shirt on.
And you were wearing it?
Yeah. I had another shirt on underneath it, and I was like, I'm happy to give it to you, man. It was a one of a kind kind of, cause I'd gotten it from the Stax Museum. And he's like, man, I said, as long as you wear it, he goes, it was funny. This is like 6-8 months ago. He goes, I'll wear the shit out of that shirt. I'm going, I bet you will. Here, man, it's fine with me.
Wow.
So, I've had cool interactions with him randomly over 20, 25 years, but nothing like, never had a real conversation or anything like that. He seems, I was talking to my wife about this a couple of days ago about bands that I like. Jason Isbell and Amanda Shires are like this for me too. They just seem like people that I would hang out with.
Right.
They wouldn't be dicks. They wouldn't be starstruck, or they're just people who could talk sports and politics and music and current events and family and everything else. And those are the kind of people I like. No pretense, no bullshit. Doesn't seem, again, I don't know, but I was always
everybody has all positive things to say that I've spoke to all the fans about their interactions with the band and members of the band and from stories they've heard about other people and their interactions with the band. It's like no one has a single negative thing to say other than Derek stealing the clothes right off the backs of the fans. But besides that,
and here's the deal. So when DTB so I never saw that Soul Stew revival. They played at Wani a couple times, and I've been to I guess I did Wani the first year and the last year, and I think one other time, but I never saw those. I always listened to the tapes. The first time I saw TTB, I had the exact same reaction that I had when I saw Derek Trucks Band the first time. I saw him at Wani in 2011. I went for my 40th birthday, and they played a kind of a twilight set on the big stage, whereas before they'd always played the little mushroom stage there. And I remember two things that really stuck out to me. First was Derek. I'd never seen him so giddy on stage. Like, he was actually smiling and like bouncing around. And, he's always been so stoic. You could tell he loved what he had put together.
I was going to say Susan.
And the second part was that
right.
was I love Susan as an artist. I love her as a guitar player, as a singer, as a band, as a front woman. She seems to me to be one of the greatest people. But I never liked the bands she was in before TTB. I didn't think it complemented her talents quite as well. And my first thought when I saw DTB was, Jesus, the kid got himself a band. What I thought, 12, 13 years later, 2011 was, Jesus, he finally put a band behind Susan that warrants her, that is worthy of her talent.
Right.
And I think a lot of fans, the scuttlebutt was always, there's not enough Derek. And I kept saying two things. My number one thing about music is what it is, not what it's not. And if so you want more Derek, but that's not what Derek's playing. Do you like what he's doing or not? The second thing I kept telling people is, it's a hell of a lot harder to do what Derek's doing right now within TTB than it is to do what he was doing in Derek Trucks Band or really even the Allman Brothers, because he's got to pick his spots. He's got to get in and get out. He doesn't have those an entire show full of long solos.
I don't know. I feel like even listening to Derek Trucks Band, I feel like he never, not that he would ever overstep his bounds, but I feel like he never overdid it on guitar even in the Derek Trucks Bands by my standard or whatever, by sensibility.
You got to add him. I mean, I'm going back 28 years now or so, 27 years seeing him play, and he has always been like that. Like, that to me is just, it's an otherworldly ability of talent, the restraint that he shows, because he is, especially now, by far the best musician on any stage he goes on to. He's certainly the best guitar player, and he's a talent, I think, that is, a once in a generation kind of talent. It's like Jordan, and I say this all the time. It's like watching Derek right now is like watching Jordan when he won those 6 titles and with the little break in the middle, like where it's just everything he did was eons ahead of everybody else.
And not even just that, it's that they both, to think of more about the Jordan Derek Trucks comparison, it's that they both control kind of everything going on around them. I mean, there's a lot of spontaneity going on in sports and on the stage as well, but they both seem very in control all the time, and everyone is looking to them to lead them.
Yeah, you watch, if watching TTB on stage, it's and I love to watch the videos because you don't catch it as much live. But when Derek wraps up, he has a very subtle. Most guitar players in this improv, will give a real head nod to tell everybody, I'm wrapping it up, and we got to go back to the to the head, or go back to the melody, or go to
I see the nods.
It's so subtle. Even in the Allman Brothers, sometimes with him and Warren, he would just like raise an eyebrow or just barely. And there's 12 people in that band, and he's going, and you'll notice like they'll all turn and watch him. They're waiting for him, and it's exactly when to just get in and get in and get out. I've loved it.
Well, I guess he only has to communicate with maybe the bass player or one of the drummers, and then they'll spread the message quickly to everyone else in the band.
Adam, that's a good point, and I will look for that a little more. For sure the drummers have
those
to be
connections
on it, right?
happen fast.
Yeah,
it is. Once, like you said, once Derek gives that look and somebody plays that little riff or whatever drum beat that ends a solo, everyone gets on board really really fast with getting back into the song or whatever.
the times when he's building something and doing Idle Wind has become kind of their, I always thought Midnight in Harlem was going to be like their signature song they'd play every night. And I think they recognize that, which is why they stopped playing it every night. Like because that is their, probably their most famous song.
They probably played in every city. They only appear once.
That's a good, you know what?
I don't know off the top of my head.
That's a good conjecture. I don't hear it very often. Like here at the Ryman, I think they played it 1 out of 3 nights.
Right.
I saw 2 Beacon shows last year. I don't think I caught it once. But that's a really, that could be, because it is it's just a beautiful.
It's too emotional to play every night.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's another part. That's another part of it. But you'll see them, you'll see the horn players and the drummers. They're all kind of like, Susan, they're all like looking over to him, waiting for him to sort of wrap it back around. It's brilliant. It's really, like you said, he is in such control, but he doesn't show it. And that's what's kind of one of the things I really like about him, is he is so kind of even keeled, even on stage when he's wailing.
Yeah. Even part of like getting back to like him never overdoing it or not playing too long of a solo, whatever the case may be. It's like that makes it even better when you hear him play solo or when he's not playing or whatever. It's like the anticipation, and you appreciate it more. It's just like,
yeah,
whether it's supply and demand or human nature, or just it's a storytelling aspect to music, and all the instruments or maybe characters or something. I'm talking out of my ass a little bit here, but I think you get where I'm going with this.
It's the thing about that band that I really like too. And the thing that I've seen them do over the last couple years, there are moments when it's just Derek, the drummers, and now it's Brandon and maybe Gabe. And there's moments when it's, just the whole band and the horns without the backup singers. And then there's moments when it's all 12 of them. And,
That's
like
great.
They have these little moments of being able to do that. And like you said, they're beginning to use the band. Well, I mean, I'm sure this has been going on all along and I just didn't see it, but I'm noticing that the dynamics within the band on a nightly basis, because of that's how they're changing it. Cause
they're keeping it fresh.
Yes. And I've yet to grow tired of it.
Right. No, you don't know what the hell they're going to play. I mean, you might have an idea on a particular tour what they could play, but you don't really know the set list from start to finish at all.
Can you pick a pattern? Like seriously, I don't know how much you've looked at set lists, and I can't find the pattern.
There isn't a pattern.
Right?
I mean, I see a little bit of the method to the madness. They'll play like, you're not going to hear maybe The Sky Is Crying the same night as what's that BB King cover
How Blue Can You Get? But
you might not see those songs the same night. There's a method to the madness, like we talked about Midnight in Harlem a little bit. When they might play that.
So for example,
no formula though.
Right. I mean, like the Allman Brothers, they'd always start with Statesboro Blues or Don't Want You No More, and it was always a rocker that would come out. Oftentimes Whip and Post, or One Way Out becomes the set closer.
Yeah.
The big giant, Liz Reed in the middle. There was always the slow blues for Greg to sing, and the guys, TTB. One time you'll see like a set of like kind of maybe more mellower ballads at the front end.
Yeah, exactly. They will do that.
And then sometimes they come out with like, Signs, High Times or something like that. It's really cool, and how original their songs are and how they fit together. I just haven't seen like the way they construct set lists. I think song wise, they're very thoughtful. How the set ebbs and flows during a show.
Oh, sure.
It doesn't seem to be a system that I can recognize yet. And I'm usually pretty good at this, but it don't hurt, but it don't bother me at all. I
wonder if it's almost like, I was gonna say, I wonder if it's almost like a confidence thing to not pick a rocker or an upbeat song for your opening song. Cause it's like not a cheap way to get the audience very engaged right away, but it's almost like, not a troll move to play a slower song. It's like, all right, we're gonna play. We'll get your attention. Don't worry about it. Like, not that as soon as the band plays, people are gonna cheer and get their attention. But they know that they have the foresight to know that soon enough, people will be on their feet. People will be fully engaged, at that, peak concert attentiveness level, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it. It's a measure of confidence. Like, we're going to play how we feel,
right? What they want to do.
We feel like playing in order we feel like doing it, and you guys are going to come with it, so you're not. And like I said to you, no matter what you find on archive or re-listen, I've never not been happy. A buddy of mine said it best. He said, "I have never regretted a penny I have spent to see Derek Trucks or Tedeschi Trucks Band in my life." And I'm like, yeah, me too. I had some big plans this year.
Yeah. Speaking of that, it sounds like you've had amazing experiences that you wouldn't trade for the world, and hopefully more in the near future. But do you have like a fantasy or a goal, dream, bucket list type thing or something like? Is it to like jam with Derek? Is it to see the band at a particular venue, to cover a particular song, to have a certain artist to play with them? Like, what do you want to see from the band, or that's realistic or not?
Yeah. I mean, two of them, and they both are very realistic. I will chase dreams until I hear it live from them, and I love the fact that Derek doesn't play it, but every God knows when. You can't see a pattern when he throws it in there. I got a chance in Chicago. They played the 3rd anniversary of Butch's death, and so they opened with Statesboro, and then they played Liz Reed in the second set, which had me weeping because I hadn't heard the song played live.
Was that with Luther Dickinson?
No. This was in Chicago, but I saw that. But I don't know if it's Liz Reed, but I was there. Luther played.
That was St. Louis. Yeah, I listened to that version a lot.
Yeah.
You're
so
saying?
Dreams is the one that I want to hear because I just, it's my favorite Allman Brothers song. It's my favorite Dwayne song. It's my favorite song for Derek to play, period.
Well, I'm sure it'll make its return eventually.
My chances are good because I'm going to make them good, And then the other is I've now seen them at the Ryman. I've seen them at the Palace in Louisville, which they don't play a residency at. I've seen them in at Chicago Theater, and I've seen them at the Beacon. So my goal now, I want to see multiple shows at the theater run. So DC, Boston. They played the Fox in Oakland. They usually do a residency there.
Right, a couple.
I'm looking to that, and I want to catch a Jacksonville show. I want to catch a hometown gig one of these days too.
Yeah, no doubt. More shows and more special places. Yeah, I'm hoping. I mean, I don't even know if Los Angeles or Southern California was on the schedule or supposed to be planned for this year or not, but hopefully Southern California soon enough, and Vegas. I always ask about Vegas. They haven't been to Vegas, I think, since 2014. That would be cool if they did another 3 to 4 or 5 shows, spent a week there, but I'm sure they've crunched the numbers and it might not make sense for them. I don't know.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'll tell you that, sort of another little bucket list thing.
Maybe the kids were too young. They couldn't do Vegas because the kids were too young for Vegas. It's not a good place for kids. Families. I don't know.
I think Derek is, like I said, I think he's going to go down as being, one of these, just everybody's going to say like, this guy was so otherworldly talented. And I could see, I've got a manuscript sort of for a book on Dwayne Allman, based on my PhD dissertation. And I could see down the road doing something on Derek. It's not my goal, but I would like to see somebody talk a little bit about him. And I think he's a pretty otherworldly talent. But
has there been a biography written about him? Like, has anyone written like a considerable biography?
No, there happens to be a lot.
Where are you?
Yeah, exactly. There happens to be a lot of material out there.
Right. There's so many articles.
And Derek, if the right interviewer, a good interviewer can get a lot of good stuff out of him. A lot of them tend to, they're those, there's the music reporter from the local paper, and they're just reading the press release and asking some basic questions. And, the pieces I sent you, I thought were really interesting because it was about Derek touring as a kid and his dad's role in him being so damn normal. And I just, when I came across
it all stems from family.
I for sure, which is how I think about with my own kids,
Sure. Cool. Well, we covered a lot. I definitely appreciate your time. Yeah. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and there's one other thing I just wanted to say real quick that I think is important. In the Allman Brother family of bands, when you lose a band member, you play through your grief. That's what the original Allman Brothers did. They literally played a gig at Dwayne's funeral with a 5-piece band. Delaney Bramlett sat in, Dr. John sat in for a bit. When Alan Woody died, Government Mule went out on, which was 20 years ago yesterday. Alan Woody was found dead. And Warren Haynes wrote a really great piece, but they went out and toured the Smile at Half Mast tour, which is him and Matt Apst. And then here you have Tedeschi Trucks Band, who plays a gig the night that Kofi dies, and toured that whole spring. And you listen to those shows. I heard you talking with somebody about this on your show.
Yeah, it's
you listen to those February shows in particular,
they're
223
intense.
and 226. You can feel it. You can feel, and I love that emotion. That it's like, I feel better when I play music. I can cry when I play music without crying, without calling. And I think it's really cool. And it's a legacy. It really is a legacy of the Allman Brothers Band. I'm sure other bands do it, but I've seen it very clearly with 3 extremely important founding members, dying, and the band still carries on. And I think it's remarkable. It is not something. I think it's remarkable, and it's really commendable. So
no, those shows are extra special for sure. The ones shortly after Kofi's passing,
and they're very well recorded. Between Alex Leary and Ed Gendelman, Ed Tyre.
Thanks, guys.
Those guys can make some good tapes, man. I seek those bad boys out. They're good. That's some good shit.
They should start like a training. They should get on like Zoom or Skype or do like a training program for people who are in different cities. So selfish people like us, or people like us selfishly, can enjoy the recordings from all over the country and world. But is there anything you wanted to plug, promote, or anything like that? I don't know if you're a public figure per se, but I'll give you the floor if there's anything like that.
No, I'm my business is history and history museums. If anybody's interested, it's at Lyndhurst, LYNDHURST_group. That's my business account. That's Twitter. I don't do Instagram or the other stuff. And I publish a few things. Hopefully we'll have a book out in a few years on at Fillmore East. Just the publisher, you just got to get that finalized, and then I gotta tighten up the manuscript. But this is
that's awesome that there is a manuscript.
It's sitting on my desk here, 500 pages of Microsoft Word. It's this is what happens when you get old and start pursuing dreams. And
it's backed up, right? You got a PDF. You emailed it to yourself
multiple times
on a drive. There you go.
Google, it's on Dropbox. It's probably have it on a CD somewhere.
There you go.
Too.
Be safe.
Yeah. So appreciate what you're doing, Adam. I told you that before, and this band deserves a hell of a lot more attention, I think, than they're getting. I think they're the best band going right now.
I agree with all that, and I appreciate your time and support, and I'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening. You're 2 hours ahead of me, so get on with it. Play that guitar that's hanging on the wall behind you. Go enjoy yourself.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Got it now. Take care.
You too.
So there you go. My conversation with Bob Beatty. That dude just oozes passion for music, and he's taken the personality tests to prove it. For real, though, I thank Bob for his time. I think me and him can probably talk TTB all day long. Anyway, for now, I hope everyone out there is hanging in there during this super fun 2020. For now, check out Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram. That's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast. And of course, remember to tap subscribe or follow on iTunes, Spotify, or via whichever way you listen to this show. And again, positive reviews on iTunes are very much greatly appreciated. But I think that's about all I got for today. Thank you so much for listening. Talk to you guys soon. Later.